Hi, I like Guilty Gear, you like Guilty Gear, everyone likes Guilty Gear. But, sadly, you do not know how to play. But thankfully for you again, with Guilty Gear Strive right around the corner, I decided to brush up on my skills and fight stick to teach you all how to play this game. Right before we start talking gear, we need to pick one. Thankfully there are two games with active player bases, X6 Accent Core Plus R and Exarg Rev 2. Today's focus is going to be on X6 Accent Core, but thankfully most of the stuff in this video is going to be applicable in Exarg. So, yay! And it will also most likely apply when Strive comes out. So, let's learn how to play some good-ass fighting games. Let's start right and talk about some movement. Might be simple, but this game is very different compared to others in the genre. You have your basic stuff such as a walk, jump, and run, but remember, this is an anime fighter, so it's going to have different forms of movement such as an air dash and a super jump. These two are very important for approaching and defending against your opponent. And throughout the video, I will be using this nifty little thing called the numpad notation to show examples and other things. So, please, and I really do mean this, please get acquainted with this because I'm going to be using it a lot. Before we talk about defending yourself, I need to tell you about your buttons. You have a punch, kick, slash, heavy slash, and dust. Your punch is a fast but low damaging move. You want to use it for either neutral or punishing people. Your kick can do a variety of things, and depending on the character, but it will mostly be used for neutral, combo starters, anti-airs, and many more. A slash is a slower but more damaging and more ranged version of your kick. And finally, the heavy slash is, well, as the name implies, a more enhanced version of your standard slash, but is more minus on block. And it leaves you very open if you whiff it. And finally, your dust. Your 5D is a very slow but damaging move that will send your opponent in the air. And it is very punishable on block, and if you whiff it. But your 2D is a sweep that is very important if you can't knock them down with a special move. This game, and we will get into this more later, is very aggressive. However, this game also supplies you with a good amount of defensive tools. So, in the famous words of the great Sun Tzu, invincibility lies in the defense. But let me make this abundantly clear. This game punishes you for running away by draining your resources, which meaning running away is a very bad idea when compared to other games. In this game, you have a block, a just defend, dead angle, burst, flawless defense, and roll mechanism. But we're gonna get to that more later, don't you worry. But now we're gonna break down each one by one. Your block is a very basic tool. It protects you from damage, but it does add a little bit of push, and you do take a really cool thing called chip damage. Wait, no, not that chip. Another thing, and in this game exclusively, if you time your block with an enemy's attack, you do a really cool thing called an instant block. This has many benefits compared to the standard block. You get more meter, don't take chip damage, and you get a wee bit of frame advantage. However, but the catch is that you only have about an 8 frame-ish window to do this, which, to put that in perspective, this game runs, if you have a reliable laptop, is about 60 FPS. So it's pretty difficult, to put it in simple terms. Now, let's say you don't want to deal with the enemy's pressure, and you can just hit back punch and slash, and you get a really cool thing called push block. But it will drain your meter, so use it carefully. Now, depending on the game you pick, you will have two different versions of the next defensive mechanic I'm going to be talking about. It's either going to be blitz or slashback. Both use the same buttons, being force, slash, and heavy slash. In Exarg, it is used as a tool for pushing the opponent back and setting up for combos. In XX Accent Core, it is essentially an instant block version of flawless defense. Now, the last defensive tool that consumes tension is the dead angle, which is an invincibility attack that consumes about 50% tension, and it pretty much resets to neutral. And now, notice that big burst text at the top left corner of your health bar? That is your burst. Let's say you're getting comboed for about 50% more or less. You can burst that and reset the game to a neutral state. However, there are a lot of caveats to that. For one, you only get about 2, maybe 3 if you're lucky in a match. And secondly, they are highly baitable, as in, if you get your burst burn and they catch you, better hope they don't have a combo waiting for you when you burst. Now, I'm going to finish the other half of that famous Sun Tzu quote. The possibility of victory lies in the attack. Earlier I mentioned something called tension. That meter is your life and death. You use that meter for every single defensive tool, as stated earlier, except burst. And every offensive mechanic also uses this meter. And how do you obtain this resource, you might ask? Well, your main way is to attack and approach the enemy, hence the name tension. Now, for your standard meter, you can use tension for basic EX and super moves, and supers are big move, big damage. You also use it for one of the most important tools, being the Roman cancel. Roman canceling, to keep it as brief as possible, allows you to cancel your recovery and go into a neutral state. And for example, if you cancel Souls 236k, you can do either another aerial, another 236k, or Souls 623s. And there's a lot more things you can do, obviously, but that's just pretty baseline. You don't just use it in combos, you also can use it to cancel recovery on missed moves or projectiles with a lot of recovery frames. For example, Kai's 236D has a lot of recovery frames, but if you cancel them, you now have an approach tool that the enemy has to respect. Time to talk about how you combo in this game. For every character, with some exceptions, you can do a basic 5P, 5K, 5S, 5H into 2D. It's basic, but it works. Now, since this is an anime game, you are going to do a little bit of labbing, or just go to dustloop.com to essentially figure out some combos. Thankfully for you though, it is a very freeform system, so anything, with an asterisk, is possible under the sun. Finally, we have arrived at the golden question. As a beginner, who should I play? And the answer is relatively simple. Anyone. The reason why I'm saying anyone is because you will be on the struggle bus with any of these characters. And you will most likely be dumping a lot of time into, well, said character. And so you might as well dump it into either a character that you think looks cool, or a character that you actually like playing. But they all look cool. Who do I play? In that case, I'll explain each one and we'll end a singular sentence. Before I get into the explanations, I'm going to quickly explain a couple terms I'm going to be using. Oki basically means a form of mix-up or pressure you apply after a knockdown. And if you want more information about any other terms I use, I'm going to send a link in the description to the fighting game glossary to essentially look up and, read. Alright, you got that? Let's get into this. Soul is a Shoto with a mix of rushdown. What you want to do with him is that you want to pressure the opponent into wild throw mix-ups. Kai is a more traditional Shoto with more honest buttons, but is more reliant on fundamentals. You want to use his tools to get Oki with his charged fireball. Axel is one of the only zoners in the game, and what you want to do is you want to keep your opponent at a fair distance, but not too much to where you're getting the negative penalty on you. Mei wants to pressure the opponent with her large normals and scare the opponent into, well, counter hits. Potemkin is the big boy grappler of the game. He wants to scare the enemy with his large damaging grabs and condition the opponent into blocking them, and then will eventually just get the big boy grab on you. Faust wants to throw items at you and use his large normals to essentially keep you at fair distance. Amelia wants to knock you down and make you guess on wake up with her, and she wants to stick to you like a tumor. Zato, or Eddie, is one of the hardest characters. He's a puppet character who wants to use Eddie to essentially pressure you, and, well, do it until you give in. Chip also wants to be stuck to you like a tumor, but he uses it with his movement to make you guess and harass you. Ino wants to use her unique dash to essentially pressure and do mix-ups on you and hit you with a lot of damage. Johnny wants to make the opponents guess on Oki with his stance and use coins to extend his combos and set up into bigger damage with his stance. Slayer, he wants to play the neutral. He wants to condition the opponent into counter hits with his long normals, scary range, and absurd plus frames. Venom wants to get the opponent knocked down with his normals or sweep, and then use balls to set up into pretty much anything what he wants, whether it be Oki, mix-ups, damage, whatever. Anji is a fairly well-rounded character who wants to push neutral with his fusion stance and butterfly Oki. Baiken wants to scare the opponent with her unique counter and pressure tools to counter-hit the opponent with her big and scary specials and normals. Jam wants to rush the opponent down with her mobility and unique card mechanic to power her specials up. Dizzy wants to use her summons and mobility to create her offense and to push neutral. Robo-Kai is Kai, but he has a unique meter that's exclusive to him. Order Soul is a more rushed down version of his Shoto counterpart, and he wants to build his meter on knockdown and other ways to essentially stay on you. Aba switches between the worst to the best character mid-game. Testament wants to scare the opponent with his scary traps and summons and big boy normals. Justice is Potemkin, but is a zoner. Zappa wants to set up into scary summons with his orbs. Cliff wants to pressure the opponent with big ass sword. Bridget is a character who wants to use a variety of projectiles for his Oki game, and yes, I said his. Since I'm so nice, I'm going to include the Exar characters. Leo is a gorilla that wants to be stuck to you. Ramlethal is a trap character who wants to use her swords on Oki and pressure situations. Kum is a Shoto with a very demanding fireball, and said ball can be used for controlling neutral, or can also be used in Oki situations. Elfil wants to use her gun normals to set up into Pineberry Oki. Bedman is a character who wants to use his gimmick of replaying what he already did to mix up the opponent, apply pressure, and set up for combos. Raven wants to use his long normals and movement for a very expressive set play, and wants to also use said normals and specials to set up into his funny meter. Answer wants to set up scrolls and use it for unique movement and pressure in mix-up situations. Sin wants to use his damage, great neutral tools, and throw high damage combos at the opponent, but also needs to manage his food bar. And finally, Jacko just wants to play Plants vs. Zombies. But my man, I still don't know who to play. Okay, well, if you're just looking for some beginner-friendly characters, I would highly recommend Soul, Kai, Jam, or Faust. They all have a low skill floor, but a mountain-sized skill ceiling, if you're interested. If you are still here, I thank you for pretty much watching me attempt to explain Guilty Gear to y'all. Now, you might be asking, why did you make this video? The reason I made it is because I couldn't find any good guiding resources for this game in the current year, and Guilty Gear Strive's coming out around the corner, I was like, you know what, I might as well make a semi-updated guide. So if I helped you out at all, I would highly appreciate it, or I introduce someone in the series. So, because this series is a lot of recognition, because it's really good, really good. Hell, if this video does so well, I might make individual character guides, but that's just getting ahead of myself. Now, pick up Guilty Gear, play a couple games, like the game, and well, hope you had a fun time watching this video, and have a good day.
Oh, who's next in line for a stomping?